Hello, my name's Karen Hustler and I'm the Assistant Director of Fellowship and Awards at Advance HE. All of my role involves promoting teaching and learning and helping universities and other institutions that deliver higher education across the globe to develop programmes and schemes that will help them to achieve their priorities and ambitions around learning and teaching. One of the key ways in which universities want to develop their learning and teaching is through the development of all staff that have anything to do with student learning. So there's a wide variety of staff in every institution within the context of that institution that will benefit from continual professional development. It may be academic staff involved in teaching, it might be professional learning services staff like librarians or technicians. It could be staff that are involved in research supervision with students. So every university or institution that delivers higher education is different, and it's important that their staff development is personal to their institution and what they're trying to achieve. The fellowship scheme that was operated by the Higher Education Academy, now part of the Advance HE organisation, has been really very important and has been growing rapidly throughout the globe. We now have over 120,000 fellows, and you'll see on the graph the growth of that over time since fellowship was first introduced. There are 4 different categories of fellowship. All of them are suited to people at a particular career stage, from associate fellowship, which is often used by students, perhaps postgraduate students involved in teaching, and also technicians, professional learning services staff, people who have a very specific role in teaching and learning, but perhaps not across the whole range of all the teaching and learning activities. Then the substantive teaching load that particularly early career staff might have can be recognised by fellowship. Senior fellowship then can be used for people who show influence and impact on the teaching and learning practices of their colleagues. And principal fellowship, which is for people who are having a sustained strategic leadership of aspects of learning and teaching. So there are 2 different ways in which individuals can gain fellowship. One way is to apply directly to Advance HE, but the other way is to go through an accredited programme or scheme in their own institution. There are advantages to the second of those options. The main one being that an institution can devise a programme or scheme that will particularly suit the development of staff within the context of that institution. The other part to this is that they can create a fellowship award which we accredit, which will have an assessment format that's suitable to the types of staff they want to develop. So for example, people applying directly to Advance HE will do a written application. But within a university setting, there could be lots of different formats of assessment that might work best. So for example, institutions could copy and use any of the guidance around our own written submission. When we accredit, we give permission for institutions to use any of our guidance or resources. But you could also choose to have something like a dialogic element to this. So it could be a portfolio that then has a dialogue where the reviewers will explore with the applicant verbally their approach to teaching and learning and how they know they've been successful, talking through what's happened in their practice and how students have learnt as a result of it. So it can be an advantage to an institution to promote accreditation of their own programmes and schemes. When thinking about accreditation, there are a series of different types of information that Advance HE and our peer reviewers will be looking for. The types of information that we're looking for will be set out in our accreditation policy, which is annually updated, and in the guidance that goes with this. So the policy document sets out our key requirements, and that includes the number of fellows who will be doing reviewing at the different categories of fellowship. We can accredit programmes and schemes for any of the categories of fellowship, from associate fellow, fellow, senior fellow, and in some instances principal fellow. But we are looking for institutions to show us that they have an internal capacity of people with the right fellowship status as set out in our policy, and that they engage those people in the appropriate training in order to take on those roles and maintain our standards. We run a whole variety of events around standardisation and training for reviewers and mentors that will support that. So please speak to us, to the accreditation team, at the first time that you're starting to think about developing accredited provision. The types of information that we look for are set out in our guidance document that goes with the policy, and that is annually updated as well. And so reading those two documents will give you a sense of the types of requirements that we have and the types of information that we would look for. The most important part in some respects of the accreditation process is that the participants who you are going to engage in your programs and schemes understand what it is that they're going to be doing, how the development that is on offer links to the professional standards framework, and how fellowship will be awarded on the basis of the assessment that they're going to submit. Now, that assessment might be as a result of a long programme, something like a postgraduate certificate in academic practice or in teaching and learning in higher education. Is very normal in the sector, particularly in the UK. But it doesn't have to be a credit-bearing programme. Your experienced staff probably have engaged in a long history in their career of successful teaching and learning practice. They may even be delivering sessions to their colleagues, or they may be operating at a very senior level, setting programmes, schemes, policy, strategy around teaching and learning. They might be engaged in teaching and learning outside your institution. They could be leading their discipline across the globe even. And so for those people, then having a recognition scheme which allows them to develop in some areas, but also then to go through an assessment process can be a very powerful thing. We currently accredit around 146 of those sorts of schemes for experienced staff. So when an institution is first thinking about accrediting provision, the first thing to decide is, what are you trying to achieve with that? How are you going to make sure that the people involved in that are going to be able to make a difference to your culture around teaching and learning? How do the institutional strategies and priorities around teaching and learning, particularly enhancement, how are they going to be built into the development of the staff that you're trying to engage in this process? What types of staff are you trying to develop and to recognise? Would it be just the early career staff, or are you wanting something for your experienced staff? And as you start to answer these questions and think about what it is about the development of your staff that is pivotal to the way in which you're going to approach enhancing teaching and learning in your institution, that will help you to decide what type of programme or scheme to have. We do also accredit programmes for other professionals as well. So we accredit quite a number of programmes for clinical educators who may be working to NMC standards or to the Association of Medical Educators, but also want to have an identity as a teaching and learning professional in higher education. So the fellowship is a really important part of that programme too. Hopefully when you've read our policy and guidance, you'll really start to understand what types of information we're looking for. And my recommendation would be to think about strategy and priority and what you want to achieve with the accreditation, and at the same time start to think about what types of participants and what kind of guidance they might need and what sort of assessment for fellowship you would like to have. Once you've read the policy and strategy and guidance we've got on our website, I would also really recommend that you have a look at our annual CPD review. This is something that all the institutions that we accredit schemes in have to submit to us every year, and we pull it together in a summary report which you'll find on our website. In there you'll see things that are working particularly well in institutions, and you'll also see some of the challenges that institutions face. By understanding what's working well in other places and also what challenges they've encountered and how they've overcome those, that will help you to think about what type of programmes you'd like to have and how you're going to arrange to operate those, what sort of administration support you might need, for example, how you might need to embed some mentoring for the staff going through these programmes, and how you need to train the staff who are reviewing. So I would recommend that you have a look at the annual report. The latest one at this moment of recording is the 2017-18 report, but the 2018-19 report is underway and we're gathering data from institutions. So look for the annual update. And the next thing is to come to one of our guidance events. We hold annual guidance events both online and face-to-face in the UK. And if you can come to one of those, you'll have a chance to meet other institutions that are accredited and are going for re-accreditation as well. And as a community, we learn together. And once you are accredited, then we have ways in which you can network with other institutions that are also accredited, so that we can all be an active community of learning to make sure that fellowship and accreditation are really having the maximum impact in the sector globally that we would like it to have. Because at the heart of all of this, what we want is for all teaching and learning to be really good, and for institutions to be able to use their staff development as part of their strategy to making sure that every student learning experience is a good one.